You've been trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You feel it in your body, the heaviness, the exhaustion that comes from pushing against a door that won't open. You tell yourself it's love. You tell yourself it's loyalty. But underneath, there's a quiet war happening. You against the current. You against the way things are. You believe that if you just try harder, they'll finally see. If you just say the right words, offer the right help, hold on a little longer, something will shift. But nothing shifts. And you grow tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. The kind that lives in your bones. This is what happens when you try to force life. You've learned to carry people, to hold them together when they're falling apart, to be the glue, the anchor, the one who never lets go. And somewhere along the way you confused this with love. You thought that to care meant to control, to manage, to fix, as if another person's life were a machine and you could just tighten the bolts. But people are not machines, and you are not responsible for keeping someone assembled who wants to fall apart. There's a guilt that rises when you think about stepping back. It whispers that you're selfish, that you're abandoning them, that if you stop trying, you've failed. This guilt is powerful. It keeps you locked in place, exhausted, clinging to someone who is clinging to nothing. But here's what nobody tells you. The guilt is a lie. It's the voice of the illusion that you stand separate from life, responsible for bending it into shape. The illusion that your force can change what refuses to change. The illusion that without your effort, everything will collapse. This is the trap, and it drains you. Think of a key and a lock. When you force it, you bend the key, you break the lock. But when you stop forcing and allow a gentle movement, a subtle shift, it turns effortlessly. This is how life works. Not through domination, through rhythm, through patience, through knowing when to stop pushing. You've been forcing the key, and now your hands are tired. When you let go, something strange happens. You expect everything to fall apart. You expect the person you've been holding to collapse, but they don't. Or maybe they do. But it's not your collapse, it's theirs. And maybe that's what they need. Maybe the only way forward for them is through the falling. You cannot carry someone and expect them to learn to walk. Letting go is not cruelty. It's the only honest thing left. There's a kind of power that comes from releasing. Not the power of control, but the power of presence. When you stop defending, justifying, managing, you stop wasting energy on battles that aren't yours. You stop trying to hold the river in your hands, and suddenly you have energy again. Not for pushing, for living. You see this everywhere if you look. The controlling manager who micromanages every detail. The team is tense, stifled, resentful. But when that manager leaves, everything flows. People breathe. They work. They solve problems on their own. The interference was the problem. This is true in love, too, in friendship, in family. When you dominate, you lose. When you cling, they slip away. When you say, you must be mine, you must change, you must become what I need you to be, the relationship dies. But when you release, when you offer space instead of pressure, something softens. Maybe they return, maybe they don't. But you are no longer destroying yourself trying to hold water in your fists. You think you're helping, but you're interfering. There's a difference. Help is an offering. It can be refused. Interference is an insistence. It ignores refusal. It says, I know better than you what you need. And this is where suffering begins. Not just for them, for you. You cannot help someone who doesn't want to change. You can only exhaust yourself trying. Change is always happening. Right now, in this moment, cells are dying and being born. Thoughts are rising and dissolving. The seasons turn without asking permission. Life does not wait for you to approve of its direction. It moves, always. And people change too, but not on your schedule, not because you've decided it's time. They change when something inside them shifts, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of transformation. You cannot create that moment for them. You cannot force the seed to sprout by pulling on it. You've been pulling, and the seed remains closed. There's an old way of seeing things, a way that understands the value of non-action, of not interfering, of letting the pattern reveal itself before you rush in to rearrange it. Most of the time, you don't really know what's best. You only assume you do. You project your fears, your needs, your idea of how life should look onto someone else's path. And then you call it help. But it's not help. It's fear dressed up as care. Think of it this way. You see a plant struggling, its leaves are drooping, and you decide you know what it needs: more water, more sun, different soil, so you move it, you flood it. You pull on the leaves to make them stand upright, and the plant weakens, because you didn't understand its system. You didn't know that it was shedding old growth to make room for new, that it needed time, not interference. This is what you do to people. You see struggle, and you panic. You rush in. You try to fix, manage, control, but you don't know their roots. You don't know what they're shedding or what they're becoming. You only know your discomfort with watching them struggle, so you interfere, and you call it love. But love doesn't force. Love offers, and then steps back. There's a paradox here. The more you try to save someone, the more you keep them stuck. Your effort becomes their crutch. Your anxiety becomes their excuse. They don't have to face themselves because you're too busy facing them for them. You've taken on a burden that was never yours, and in doing so, you've stolen their chance to grow. This is the cruelty of too much help. You think you're being kind, but you're being controlling. You think you're being generous, but you're being intrusive. And underneath it all, there's a belief that without you, they'll fail, that you are the only thing standing between them and disaster. But you're not. You never were. You are not separate from life, standing outside of it, responsible for managing its outcomes. You are life, moving through itself, and so are they. And when you try to control their movement, you break the flow, yours and theirs. Imagine standing in a river, trying to push the water upstream. You can do it for a while. You can use all your strength and force the water backward. But the river doesn't stop. It keeps flowing. And you grow weaker, and eventually you collapse, and the river continues, exactly as it always was. This is what you've been doing. You've been pushing the river, and the river doesn't need your push. There's something deeply humbling about realizing you cannot change another person, that all your effort, all your love, all your sacrifice won't move someone who isn't ready to move. It feels like failure, but it's not. It's clarity. It's the moment you stop confusing control with care. You don't have to hold anyone together. You don't have to fix anyone. You don't have to sacrifice yourself on the altar of someone else's refusal to grow. You can let go, and in letting go, you might discover something unexpected, that the person you've been trying to save doesn't collapse, or maybe they do, but it's not your responsibility. It never was. Your responsibility is to live your own life, to honor your own energy, to stop pouring yourself into a cup with no bottom. This doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sane. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled, when you accept that some people are not ready. Some people will choose their suffering over their healing. Some people will resist every hand that reaches for them, and that's their choice, not your failure. You did not fail them. They failed themselves, and that's a truth they have to face alone. You cannot walk someone else's path. You cannot learn their lessons for them. You cannot grow on their behalf. All you can do is live your own life with integrity. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is nothing. Silence, space, distance. Let them find their own way, or let them stay lost. Either way, it's not yours to carry. Letting go is not giving up. It's releasing the illusion that you were ever in control. It's trusting that life knows what it's doing, even when it looks like chaos. It's understanding that your exhaustion is not a badge of honor. It's a sign that you've been fighting a battle that isn't yours. Stop fighting. Stop forcing. Stop trying to save people who don't want to be saved. Let the river flow.